So we've talked about the housing crisis before and how it's a problem. However, here's an interesting... Well, I thought about it until I really read this article that's in The Guardian, and it's basically all about disabled millennials. And it's something you don't actually stop and think about. Now, I have a friend called Steve. He's disabled, and I saw him share this article, and his comment basically echoed what this article says, and it's basically, look, even though all new builds today have to be wheelchair accessible, not all houses are wheelchair livable. And Steve's told me time and time again, particularly when he goes on holiday somewhere, the number of times he goes into like a disabled room and the shower head is too high for him to reach. He's lost count of the number of times that's happened. And we don't tend to stop and think about these people who are at a very vulnerable end of society and do suffer even more, because think about it, if most people are building houses for people who don't have a disability, then what about the houses for people who do have a disability or do live in a wheelchair? This is actually, I think, a very serious problem, and I am a great believer that societies should be judged about how they treat their most poorest individuals. And I think we are doing a massive disservice to disabled people in this country, because this also then limits the opportunity of these people. Because imagine then, for a moment, let's say, for example, you're a disabled person and you're, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, where could you live? Yeah, let's say you live in Hull, and you, in Hull, you live with your parents, because that's how long you've been there for. You have a sort of job in Hull. It does your necessaries, but it doesn't really fully cater for the opportunities you've maybe gone to university for, maybe studied for. It's not, the job you're in is not necessarily the one they want to do as a full-on career and have trained for. But let's say a job in Leeds comes up. They go to the interview, get the job, and then they have to move. And then you encounter a very serious problem. Because what if you are, again, like the person in this article, I'll leave a link down to it below, you are disabled and you can't find anywhere to live because all the houses that are on the market, be they to buy or to rent, are not wheelchair livable. There is a massive difference between somewhere being wheelchair accessible and somewhere wheelchair livable. I mean, I look at the house I'm in, and this was built in 97, I believe it was. So the first thing you'll notice about this house is you've got 2 steps. So there is, if I ever put the house goes on the market, there's no chance of anyone who potentially lives, or who is disabled, or who has to have a wheelchair to be able to move and get around. Why are they going to buy this house? There's no chance of them getting in. And then, there's a second floor, there's steps. And I think, I don't know, because especially in the town where I live, it's very difficult to think, other than maybe council-specific houses that have been built specifically for that purpose. I think this is generally a massive problem that I think has gone really underrated over the past couple of years. I mean, yes, the housing crisis is a serious problem, but when you stop to think about it, what about, again, the housing crisis really driven by young people who can't afford to buy new homes because they've been priced out of the market? Well, think of this as another step, because now you've got a young person who is disabled, who is also priced out of the market, but also can't find a home where they can now live. And remember, even if you buy a home that is wheelchair accessible, let's say it's a new build that is wheelchair accessible, think of the amount of money you then have to spend to make this place where you can live. So you've not only got the cost of the new house, but then you've got things like you have to probably build a wet room. You then probably have to make sure that all the counters and surfaces are sort of lowered to your level where you can access them. Your cooker is going to have to be a certain height so that you can cook your own food, things like that. These problems just pile on one after another, and yet this is actually, and again, the more you think about it, the bigger the problem this actually is. So yeah, I have the utmost sympathy for people who are disabled, because then this not only limits where they can live, it limits their opportunity. Because going back to my analogy, again, what if they've lived in Hull all their life and then got that job opportunity, got the job itself, and then had to turn around to the employer and go, sorry, I can't work for you because I can't find anywhere to live in Leeds. I mean, that's just, it boggles the mind how limiting it really is for certain groups of people in this country.